I'm really excited for Guanghong Xu and Mark Treurniet to be discussing things today about farm to fridge digital traceability and quality upgrading in the Kenyan dairy value chain. Guanghong is our presenter. He is currently a PhD candidate at the University of California, Santa Cruz. He is familiar with this forum, having presented back in 2021. And if you're interested, you can refer to that recording on the SPEAR website. I know Guanghong, you've been working on this for a while, and I'm really excited to see it come together. Mark Treurniet will be discussing Guanghong's paper. Mark is an assistant professor at the Faculty of Economics and Business at the University of Groningen, and we're really grateful for you taking the time to discuss this paper today with us. So we'll get started. Guanghong, you have the floor for about 35 to 40 minutes. I will, at the 35-minute mark, unless we're seeing conclusion slides, I will interrupt just so that we can make sure that we can get through everything. Guanghong, you can take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Susie, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm a PhD student from University of California, Santa Cruz, and I'm graduating this year. I'm on the market. So this project is a project I have been working for like the past 3.5 years in Kenya, and this is my job market paper. So before I start, I really want to say I appreciate the funding support from the SPIA, because without that funding, I cannot put this off. All right, so let's get started. Farm to fridge digital traceability and quality upgrading in the Kenyan dairy value chain. I think I don't have to motivate a lot, in front of the SPIA audience, because we all agree that it's really important to improve the quality of agricultural products. And especially as consumers, right? Because that's the food we eat. We want to have healthy, nutritious food. And as a consumer, we want to reward the quality. And from the producer side, it's also important for them because it's moving them from the subsistence farming to a market-driven commercial agricultural value chain. Because usually, like in a modern commercial agriculture, that we have a standard bird quality that you have to meet the quality standards to open a door to sell to the formal value chain, right? But have we ever asked the question that from the consumers, we are rewarding for the quality, but whether the quality premium are transmitted along the value chain to the farmers, right? Because that's pretty important. If farmers don't feel the incentives to produce high quality products, they won't do anything to improve it. Disorganized agriculture value chains with many layers of intermediaries, they often prevent the transmission of quality incentives to the upstream farmers, especially when the quality is unobserved at the farm gate, right? This will discourage farmers from upgrading quality. And we always see that when the quality revealing cost is really high, that you cannot know every single farmer's quality, then the downstream buyers, they always certify the quality in the bulk after aggregation. And then the question is whether and how the quality the quality incentives are transmitted to those upstream producers. This is an open question. In my paper, so I proposed something new, which I called traceability system, basically, recording, who is in the bulk that you certify the quality. And this system, I think, is potentially can enable the rewards for the, individual farmers for producing high quality goods. And I also, in the project, I test a novel quality measurement system derived, from this traceability system. I run an RCT to compare this new method to a random farm gate testing and also a control group. So I studied this in the Kenyan dairy sector. So first, let's take a look at how does the Kenyan dairy sector look like? In the formal value chain, we have farmers selling to the cooperatives. In Kenya, we have 2 million of smallholder farmers who are selling to the cooperatives, and cooperatives usually hire those. I think everybody can see my milk. Cooperatives can hire those transporters to collect the milk from those smallholder farmers. What they do is that they usually aggregate those farmers' milk into those 50-liter aluminum cans, and then they load those cans, to the truck, and they use the truck to carry to the milk collection center and to the cooling plant. So at the cooling plant, usually the processors which is right here, they will come to test the milk in the bulk, which is like 1,000 to 5,000 liters every single day. So based on the testing result, there are three consequences. One is that they will accept milk with a premium. And second case is that if they meet the processors rewarding standards. So the second case is that they accept milk without a premium, which is just base price. If they meet the national standards of the milk quality, but they fail the processors quality standards. The third case is that if the milk is below the national required standards, they have to reject the milk because the milk cannot be traded by law, right? So here we basically have like two standards. One is set by the national government, which is called Kenya Bureau of Standards. The other standards, which is more strict, is set by the processor, right? So then you can basically, based on the two standards, to define the milk into three categories. Basically, I call it like low quality, normal quality, and high quality. So the case is that milk testing is only done at the cooling plant level, and it's not done at the farmer level because the same testing costs, if you divide it by like 3,000 liters versus like if you are doing one test for like 3 liters or 5 liters for individual farmers, that's just impossible. The cost is so high. That's the monetary wise, and also time wise, it's also like every single test you have to like take. Let's say if you take 5 minutes to finish one test, like 10 farmers is like 50 minutes. Milk is a perishable goods that you cannot let the last farmers to wait you for 2 to 3 hours because when the sun is out, the milk will go bad. Right. So then this leads to a low quality and low price equilibrium because like at here, no test is done, then farmers are only paid based on the volume, right? So as a result, like I take a look at the data, it's like 63% of the farmers, they fail at least one of the quality standards in terms of added water, butterfat, or bacteria level. And only 13% of farmers, they meet the processes, the threshold for the rewarding. So then how to solve this low quality, low price equilibrium? Basically, we have to first investigate whether the milk quality is farmer specific or is time varying, right? So I basically plot the time series of the aggregated cans, in terms of added water and the butterfat here. This is among like around 2,000 cans in 2 different counties. So as you can see that milk is fluctuating over time, but at different levels, right? So if you are look at so this is from the Embu counties, added water is slightly higher, and the butterfat is is lower than the Embu county. So let's say if you test the milk around the 13 days, or on a day 13, so then you will feel like, okay, the milk is not that differentiated from each other, but actually they are really different if you look at the whole chain. So if you take a look at the farmer level, the fluctuation is higher. It's way higher, as you can tell from here. But the tricky thing about investigating the quality fluctuation among the farmer level is not an easy task because imagine that if you show up to test farmer's milk every single day, the testing itself will affect farmers' behaviors, especially when we talk about added water, right? So if I know that you're coming to test my milk every single day, right, starting from the second day or third day, so I won't add water into that. But conveniently, I have several of the large-scale farmers whose milk alone can fill in those 50-liter cans. So this gives me opportunity that I can observe their quality fluctuation over time by testing the aggregated cans they are filling into without directly interacting with them. So the downside is that I only have like 3 of them, like having, actually they have more than 3, but only 3 of them like more than 5 days that I can see a change here. So just wanted to know here that if you member 3 and member 1 is clearly different farmers from member 2, right? But if you test milk on day 5, you might think of like member 1 and member 2, they are all normal type of farmers in terms of added water. But if you test them on day 10, you will think, okay, farmer 2 is a good quality farmers because added water is below 2%. And member 1 is a bad farmer because added water is more than 4%. So then I just want to point it out that one-time test can only reflect the perfect formation for the days when the milk sample has been taken and tested, not on the other days, right? It fails to fully capture the dynamics of the milk quality, right? In the context of dynamic moral hazard with limited monitoring resources, in the literature, the random monitoring is largely studied. So in my case, is that okay? I know you don't have the money and the time to test every single farmer every day, but can you say that I just randomly select days to show up to test farmers' milk? That's one way for sure we'll test it. But then I'm asking further that could we still monitor on a daily basis, but on the aggregate level, right? So just want to know that the pooled pool monitoring is also commonly used during the severe COVID time back in like 2021, the 2022, especially in China. Even though the Chinese government have what happens is like in that case, if you find one positive COVID case, then you have to test every single person in that whole community until you find all the positive cases. Right? Even though the government give you unlimited budget on testing, but you only have like 24 hours. What would they do? I mean, what did they do is that they basically just have several people's sample putting together and test at a pooled sample. And if pooled sample fail the test, they will basically chase back to individuals to test each one of them. But in my case, it's slightly different than that. In the case that I'm not just basically saying I want to find whether it's positive or negative. I want to know the actual, the quality levels for each individual farmers. So then what does that mean, in our setting for the pooled group monitoring? So just revisit this picture one more time. So I understand that you cannot test here, and before you test here at the processor level, can you do something in between, right? So naturally, you will have all those 50-liter milk cans that you can test. So right. So what's the idea? So basically, what if you test all those 50-liter cans, and you record who is in those cans, right? So the idea is that if today my milk and Susie's milk mix together, and the testing result is bad, and tomorrow is if my milk and Mark's milk mix together, and the testing result is bad, and on the third day, if Susie's milk and Mark's milk mix together, the milk quality is good. What would you think, right? You will think I'm the farmer who is causing the problem. So basically, that's the idea that I try to say, what if I test at the aggregate level, but I record who is in the can? Then I infer backwards who is doing good, who is doing bad. Okay, so then through that, I want to ask the following research questions that do cooperatives and farmers act on the information provided to them? Because before it's a hidden information between buyers and sellers. Now I try to reduce the information frictions. And then I ask further that do farmers and cooperatives, they act differently on the model information versus the random individual testing information? And does the intervention cause farmers to invest in the quality upgrading? And does the intervention eventually increase the milk quality, right? And at the end, which is but not the last but not least, is it cost efficient to use this new quality monitoring technique, on the pooled sample compared to the existing way of random testing? Is it scalable, right? So just a preview for the results. The model predicted quality shows a high correlation with a one-time milk test. So it's 0.75 for the added water and 0.62 for the butterfat among 940 farmers from 2 different counties. The cooperatives they did actually information provided to them. So they increased the credit limits for the farmers who consistently provide high quality milk. They trained the local farmers and they warned farmers not to add water into the milk. And after 3 rounds of the quality monitoring and information sharing, what I find is that model group farmers, they reduce added water by a significant 22% compared to the control. And the random test group farmers, they show insignificant 12.6 reduction. And farmers in both cooperatives, they who consistently deliver high quality milk receive higher credit limits from the cooperative, and they use more credit on animal feed. At the last that I did the back of envelope calculation, it shows that models achieve a greater reduction in the added water per dollar spent. And with the additional benefit that you don't have to go to the field to collect and test individual farmers, right? And also you can provide a can level quality information. Basically, you can, it's better for the cooperative to know that, before you're pulling into the bigger cooling plant, you have to differentiate the good ones and bad ones before they are mixing. Okay, so the study basically, directly speak to the quality certification literature. So we have this is a growing body of literature, including Machiavello and his co-authors. They studied the quality sustainability program in Colombia coffee sectors. And also we have other studies in the watermelon study by Bai from Harvard. And we have Bernard and their co-authors. They also study the quality certification for the in the Senegal. So I just want to point out that in my, I mean, also including a lot of ongoing studies about the wheat certification in Ethiopia, honey certification, quality certification in Ethiopia as well, and also I'm also part of the team evaluating the cassava cutting certification in Rwanda. But in my study, the quality certification at the aggregate level is already there downstream in the value chain, and the quality certification at the disgrade level would be more like a quality audit, as you won't certify the individual producer's quality until the aggregated quality is found to be low. And also, the study will speak to the literature of what we call as buyer-driven upgrading. So in this type of literature that we have two big categories. One is that we have, there exists a market which is paying for the quality premium for the producers, but the producers just, for some reason, they're not linking to that, right? So there are a bunch of studies to say, okay, what if we link, for example, rug producers in Egypt to the foreign buyers who are reporting this, including the fish industry and the maize industry in Uganda, and I'm also part of the team with Susie as well. We are evaluating what's effective, providing Rwanda farmers with access to the maize processor, so they have a higher quality standards. They are so they are rewarding for that, and we are looking at the effect on the input decisions. And there's another trend of literature in this big area that is, what if we just don't building new trading relationship? Right, we say based on the existing trading relationship, what if we keep the direct quality subsidies? Vivian Hoffman with her co-authors, they study that what if we offer the subsidies for the maize farmers in Kenya, whether this will lead them to invest in this quality improvement technology. And Maniswini Rao, who presented I think 2 years ago in this webinar on the milk quality as well in India, they're also paying this collective quality incentives to the dairy cooperatives in India. I think Mark also has a study in this area in the Indonesia milk quality sector. I have to add your literature into my paper for sure later on. So then there's ongoing study led by Bai and her co-author. So they're basically asking the same question to say, okay, how can we facilitate the quality transmission along the value chain, right? They are doing this in a different way. They say, okay, what if we give the coffee traders, which is the intermediaries in the Uganda coffee sector, to say whether this increased market competition in sourcing high quality coffee traders will help to transmit the quality incentives to upstream farmers. That could potentially work if if the quality is at least partially observable. For example, the coffee cherries, you can tell from the size and color of the coffee cherries, but in our setting, the milk, you really cannot tell by your eyes how good the quality is. So my study is basically different from the study in the buyer-driven upgrading literature that I'm not building new trading relationship. They're already linking to a processor paying the quality premium. And I'm also not increasing the subsidy for them. I just focus on the transmission, not of the quality incentives from the downstream processor to the upstream farmers. So I try to reduce the quality information, via this traceability system and the statistical model I developed. Okay, so my study basically has three components, big components. One is I build a traceability system, right? So once that, on top of that, I test aggregate hence, and I infer individual farmers' milk quality. The second component is that I run an RCT. And then the second part is the RCT part, right? So let's directly talk about the traceability system for now. So this figure is nice in the sense that I usually when you see the traceability system, you have to link the transaction parties at each part of the value chain. Then you need to record by each one of them. But conveniently, in my setting, it's really good in the sense that we have one single person, which is a transporter, right, who actually interact with everybody, every part of the stage on the value chain. So they are the ones who collect milk from farmers. They are the ones to, mix the farmers' milk into the cans. They are the ones who load the cans to the big truck and carry them to the collection centers. They are the ones, waiting at the cooperatives, waiting for the processors to come to collect the milk and test. So what I did is that I rely on the transporters to record the traceability data for me. So I first mark all those aggregated containers, assign each one of them a unique ID. As you can see that before it's all unmarked, now I outmark them. And then I give the transporters a smartphone and with the digital app installed. On the digital app, basically you will have sections about which collection rules, whether it's morning milk or evening milk, what's the can ID. If the can is used for more than one trip, you have to differentiate the trip 1 or trip 2. Then you link to the farmer's ID here. You basically have the ratings of the gross weight of the milk, and you also minus the tell weight, you get a net weight. So this is how we link everything together, right? So then how does the model work? So I already briefly talk about the core idea behind the model, but in reality, we know that it's not that easy because we have more than just, we don't have just 2 farmers mixing together, right? We have like 5 to 10 farmers on average, I think. No, ranging from 2 to 10 farmers for each can. So I basically developed a model to utilize the variations coming from the fact that farmers' milk volume, which aggregated cans they fill, which are the farmers who are contributing to that can, and also the corresponding aggregated can results vary every day, right? So then I rely on the relationship between the individual level milk and the can level milk that they are weighted average relationship. So I basically test the cans, recording who is there, infer backwards based on the relationship. So just to give you prior info, so the model inputs is just like the can level testing data and the traceability data, which is I call it the weight matrix for farmers' contribution to the aggregated cans. But on top of that, I still need to give model some information that we already know, right? For example, added water is something that is a non-negative value. So it can be 0, it can be positive, but it's not negative. So I plot the distribution of the farmer level to can level. As you can tell, the farmer level looks like the half normal. So that's the information I give to the model. But I basically just tell the model that it's half normal, but I don't tell the model what's the parameters of that half normal, right? Similar, case for the butterfat. So I plot the individual level distribution for the butterfat here. As you can see that butterfat is something somehow different from the added water because it's a strictly positive number. You cannot be 0, right? Because if it's 0, what does that mean? It's like pure water, right? So then in that case, I basically tell the model that, okay, look at the distribution of the individual farmer. It looks like it's a gamma distribution. So then that's the additional prior information I give to the model. But still, I want to emphasize that I just tell them what's the distribution look like. I didn't tell the model what's the parameters of the distribution. So then I run this model and the model fitting that I try to, the figure I attach here, I basically just try to emphasize that the model will give me the whole posterior distribution, taking into account the uncertainty of each individual farmer's milk across days. As you remember previously, I showed you the time series, right? So then based on the whole posterior distribution, I can calculate what's the probability of you failing the national standards there. Basically, you just do the CDF of that observations for the whole posterior distribution. On top of that, we also have the point estimates. So I try to plot the point estimate, the mean, against the individual task for different quality parameters. So as you can see that it shows high correlation for the added water, which is 0.78, 7.5. And it also shows high correlation with the butterfat with a correlation of 0.62. But again, so I basically just plot the relationship. I also don't want to say that the individual test is like the golden rule you use to validate your model. As you can see from the previous time series of the milk quality, one-time test is also not perfect. They can also yield like type 1 or type 2 errors, right? So then the second part of my paper, I run an RCT among 940 farmers and from 2 different dairy cooperatives. Let me see how many data sets that. Okay. So then I stratify by the collection routes, and I have 3 treatment arms basically. So one is a random test, the second one is that at the individual level. So I basically every day I tell the farmers there's 10% chance of testing your milk, the second arm, I have like aggregated cans reviewed by the Bayesian model. So typically I will run, monitor around like 10 days on average until the aggregated can observations are 2 times of the number of different farmers in each collection groups. And the control group, I don't share any information. So what I find, so first of all, that I want to show that the randomization is done fairly well. Only like 2 of them is unbalanced, which is the number of household members and also number of years of keeping cattle. But I didn't see a direct channels that these 2 will affect the milk quality. So, but nevertheless, I included these 2 in the regression in the later analysis. So most importantly, that milk quality is balanced across each groups for all the quality parameters. And the timeline is that I have pilot down in the January, and later on have some setbacks because the testing machine is going wrong. And then I have the finally officially first round in May, and the first round for Amble in June. And then I have second round, third round, and the last round in September. And one thing I want to point out is that I have to use the second round information monitoring results to evaluate what's the effect of first round information sharing. So in total, I have shared 3 rounds, and I use the last round to evaluate what's the effect of them. And information sharing for the farmers, I basically just tell them what's the testing result. And for the model group is slightly different in the sense that I tell the cooperative and the farmers average estimation, and I also tell them probability of each, URB in each quality type. I also have other quality matches I share with the cooperatives only because it's easy to share with the expression. I can show you in the appendix, but perhaps not now because of time constraint of the presentation. So for the quality measurement, I want to point out that we have 2 categories. One is the quality levels directly coming from the testing result using this testing machine for adding water and butterfat. And bacteria is slightly different because you are using different techniques that is generating the ordinal data, and you use the ordinal data, which is type 0 to 6, and classify them into different categories. So that's why that's how I generate the dummy for the different type of quality. So then I have the dummy for 3 different parameters, but for the level I only have like for 2 because of the different nature of the data. So I first do the dynamic treatment effect model estimation. So I think I can directly show the result perhaps. So just point out that I have the collection rules fixed effect and the round fixed effect there, and I cluster the standard errors by the individual level, which is the level of my randomization. So before we jump into the result, I want to show just give you a brief sense about what the cooperatives do after each round. So after the first round of information sharing, they train the local quality farmers on the butterfat and bacteria. They also talk to farmers about adding water. After the second round, they talk to farmers more seriously that, oh, I already told you not to add water, but you're still doing so. After the third round, they say, okay, they still, for some of the farmers, they repeatedly adding water to the milk. They withhold temporarily part of the payment for those farmers. And eventually all the payments have been refunded to the farmers. And they also reward the group farmers if they keep they never adding water to the milk, because they feel like those farmers are more trustworthy, and they are more confident they will be able to pay back the loans if they have the money. So they increase the credit limits to the farmers. And later on, I will show you that those farmers also use more credit on the animal feed. So I didn't share any information for the first round. I use that as a inline evaluation. So what's the result? As you can tell, that the added water is keep decreasing, and the different group is acting differently. At the end, somehow the individual test is not keep decreasing, but the model group is keep decreasing here. This is from the quality level. The thing for butterfat is coefficients are all positive, it's increasing, but they never differentiate from 0 significantly. One possibility is that, hypothesis I have is that the butterfat is already high enough at the baseline. There is no much room for them to improve. And also, this is something that will be affected by your cow type, which is not, easily changing in the short run. Also, I take a look at the quality dummy, whether you are defined as bad quality or not, for adding water, butterfat, and bacteria. So as you can tell that for the bacterial, I didn't share anything for the model because the model won't work for the ordinal data. I only have the model results for the butterfat and the eddy water. So they supposed to have none effect, which is fine, the red line. But for the random test, actually, after I shared the first round, there is, the second round, there is like a significant reduction in the type of, share farmers who are classified as bad on bacteria. But the effect disappeared after the third round because the copies don't have clear incentives or for the bacteria. They basically just train the farmers. And I will show you through which channel they improve and not improve the bacterial level for the milk. All right. I also run a regression to check on the effects on at the end line, the similar specification, and just confirm that added water significantly reduced at the end line in the model group. This size is still not triple, it's still large, but just not significant for the random test group. And this is basically confirmed what we find from the dynamic plot there. And for the training that the copies significantly train those farmers who are in the treatment groups, but they for the model group they don't have training because we don't share any information for bacteria for the model group farmers. Okay, what I find in the investment in the bacteria, it's quite interestingly that farmers are not changing any behavior or practices that require a real money investment. So for example, you need to buy those aluminum cans, they're not doing so. You shouldn't mix your morning milk and evening milk, they're not doing so because it's real consequences, the money lost for them. So for those ones that are easily change behavior, so they use more milking jelly after the milking, which is recommended by the trainer, and they use the different towels for milking different cows. This is also significantly fine. And how about the credit access? So the poll result, you basically didn't find any differences. But if you look into the different group of farmers, for the farmers who never added water, both group, the random test or model group, they significantly increase the credit limit and they use more in the animal feed. And this is basically a subgroup defined by individual tests. I also do the same practices, define farmers who never added water based on the model, right? They are showing the similar effect and, farmers who never added water have more credit limit, they use more credit for the animal feed. Okay, so at the end, I try to say, is the model cost efficient compared to the random test, right? So I plot this weighted average added water by the treatment arms. So I did kind of definitive type of thing to calculate what's the improvement from the model group, what's the improvement from the random test group at the end, like compared to the baseline. So the improvement for the model group is 2.71 last added water, and the random test group is 1.28. As you remember that we test the can level observations until it's 2 times of the number of farmers. So which means that the monetary cost on testing itself is twice. But improvement, as you can tell, is more than twice. But this is just really simple calculation. I didn't even take into account what's the additional cost, right? You have to pay if you go to the field to test individual farmers' milk, right? So that's why I'm writing here that additional benefit of saving the time and money to send people to the field to test individual farmers' milk is not haven't been taken into account yet. And I haven't incorporated, the additional benefit of, now, all those 50-liter cans, whether it's good or not, is actually helping the copies that you can help to sort, the good ones and better ones before they are mixing. So that's basically everything I have here. I see Susie showing up, perhaps I'm running out of time, but this is just a summary page that I established the traceability. I have the model which is working well. I then run the individual RCT that, among model, random test and control, and I find largely reduction in the added water, and the farmers get a more, credit limits if they consistently provide high quality milk, and the model achieved a greater deduction in added water per dollar spent. And that's it. And thank you everyone for coming here. This is Joe and Kenya boy. I get the picture from Yuri. So I really like this picture because I really wish every kid in Kenya or beyond can enjoy, healthy, nutritious milk and have a big smile like Joe. Thank you.
Thank you, Guanghong. You were right on time, even a few minutes early, given that we started a little bit late. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to hand over to Mark, who's going to lead a discussion. provide some discussion comments, and then we will open to Q&A.
Let me stop sharing my screen, please. Yeah.
Great, thanks a lot, Guanghong, for your presentation. And Minya is showing my slides, so thanks a lot for this. Can I have the next slide? Because I would like to start congratulating you on, well, first on a very interesting innovation, then a well-organized experiment. And I think the pictures you show only give a small hint of how difficult it must have been to organize an experiment like this. And then a very well-written paper. Can I have the next slide, Mina? I think what you do is you study a relevant problem, because we aim to pass on quality incentives to small-scale farmers, but measurement is expensive, and that's a challenge. And then you provide an innovation on the next slide. Your innovation is that you use a Bayesian model that uses variation from 4 factors. The farmer's milk volume, which aggregated cans they fill, then which other factors are contributed to that can, and the corresponding aggregated test results. Now, I have 2 thoughts about your innovation. I think, in the paper you compare this with random individual level testing. But I was first seeing this as an innovation compared to simple group level testing. And yeah, you mentioned my paper. I'm a bit hesitant to promote my own work, but I'm mentioning it here because it took place in the context of Indonesia, where the simple group level testing was the default. And then they switched to individual level testing. So I think simple group level testing is used a lot worldwide as well. And then basically you use more factors because group level testing would simply measure the quality for the group. So let's say only use the last factor that you used. Then, well, given this background, I would be curious, how much is your approach better than using simply the results of group level tests? And the second question there, I think the motivation for using group level tests is, like you hinted at already, is more cheap. But then you conduct quite some tests on the cans, 2 times the number of the different farmers. And my question would be, can this Bayesian model also work with less testing, or perhaps the tests spread out more over time? Because of course, dairy farming is a continuous business. Then my second question here would be, could you maybe calculate other metrics to compare this simple group level testing, the Bayesian model, and individual level testing? And then I was thinking about what would be the marginal return in terms of the test results if you as an individual farmer increase the quality of your milk. And and how would that differ across the different types? Okay, so an interesting innovation then about your impact results on the next slide. You find that after the 4th round of data, which you call the end line, the model detection increases milk quality in 3 of the 5 indicators and outperforms random tests on 1 indicator. And yeah, I've just some methodological questions. Why do you base your impact analysis on the 4th round of data and do not include the 2nd and the 3rd? And I was curious, did you pre-register for this end line specifically? And another methodological question, can you maybe show some adjustment for multiple hypothesis testing as you use different indicators? And then in your slides, you also presented like that it seems that the model detection is more cost effective. But then you used a different model, right? You based this on a diff and diff and not on the results that you showed in the table earlier. Or at least you showed in the paper, table 2. And a question here as well, if you claim this, can you also show a confidence interval? So just some methodological remarks here. Then on the next slide, I start to think about the mechanisms. So why do you find these effects? Is this because with your Bayesian model, you provide better information? Or is it maybe because of other reasons? And I was thinking of 3 potential other reasons. First is Hawthorne effects or bandwidth or just attention that the cooperative and farmers may have given to the results, because what I understood is that you conducted the same measurement for research purpose, right? But the farmers in the model treatment, they receive more results. Yeah, maybe that doesn't have an implication for policy, but I was just thinking, what's the difference between better information and perhaps bandwidth? Then 2 factors that also differ and may have a potential implication for like what can we for policy. The first is the intensity of testing, like like you mentioned in your presentation and I mentioned before. You tested until the number of Ken level observations was 2 times the number of different farmers. And in the individual random testing, you conducted 1 test per farmer. So yeah, might this explain the difference? And if so, yeah, then of course the implication is, do you prefer model results over individual tests, or do you simply prefer more tests over fewer tests? And then I also understood that there was a different classification based on the model versus the individual test, with more farmers classified to have bad quality with the model. And I was thinking perhaps this seems consistent with the observation that bad water reduced specifically for model detection, right? Because this target perhaps, this difference in the classification perhaps affects like a group that is at risk of delivering bad quality milk. And if this is the case, then my question would be, would the implication be to prefer model results over random individual tests? Or would the implication be to just classify more farmers to have bad quality? Because perhaps then this will change the behavior as well. So then to conclude on my last slide, I think it's a very relevant problem that you study. We want to quality incentives to be passed on to small-scale farmers, but measurement is expensive. You have a very interesting contribution. Use a Bayesian model to distract individual level signals from a group level measures. And I think this approach may improve over the simple group level measures that are already used, for example, in Indonesia. But I'm not yet convinced that it also outperforms the individual level measures for the reasons that were discussed on my previous slide. So thanks a lot for your paper and for the opportunity to discuss it, and for your presentation.
Thank you very much, Mark. Guanghong, I'm going to give you a few minutes to respond to anything that you'd like to respond to, and then we'll open up to questions.
Yeah, there's so many things that we can talk about. Like, let me just suggest several of them that I think it's really salient to me that I still remember. So first of all, that originally when I designed a study, I do think, instead of like testing, so the model requires like you test twice as observations to converge and perform well. Originally, I tried to say, can I make it, cost comparable between two groups? But I just realized, okay, it's impossible because testing cans is super easy. You just sit at the cluster, you just test all those cans. But if you're going to test every individual farmers, right? Not to mention about the time, just the cost. I mean, just the cost itself. Like you have to send a new staff to the field, and you collect all the samples and carry it back to the lab. That's additional cost is not factored in. And also, when we talk about the time, it's really sensitive. Like if you spend 5 minutes in every farmer, so then it's like 10 farmers among the 100 farmer route, that will be like already 1 hour, 50 minutes. So the second that was, so the group testing, I need to read more carefully about your paper. Is that the idea that you kind of like form the farmers in a fixed group, and how large is the group size? Because I think it depends on the group size. Like if you're always having like 10 farmers fixed together, always mixed together, that there's still like rewriting issues that I need to read carefully. Then perhaps later on we can discuss on this one. And for the cost benefit calculation, the reason I'm not directly using the table result is that in the regression, it's basically you treat each observation say equally, right? So then I think there's the weight of the milk volume is different. Let's say you see those big farmers, like you have more than 45%, I mean like 50 liter milk versus like a smaller farmers like 5 or 6 liters, they are not the same. I try to say, okay, can I just calculate the weighted average directly? But for sure, this is just really simple calculation. I need to improve more. Perhaps I can factor in the additional cost to send a staff to collect milk and factoring the additional benefit of the can level results, stuff like that. But this is just a start, I think. And what else I think I will need to respond. Mark, maybe you can tell me that out of all this question raised, like, is there any specific one that you want me to address here? Because I do think a lot of them are super valid, and I appreciate your comments.
I mean, Guanghong, it's okay. I think I just wanted to give you the opportunity to respond. So I don't think we need to necessarily address everything, but I do think it would be good to follow up with any of the additional things that maybe weren't clear or something like that. So I'm going to now open up to the floor for any Q&A. So if you have a question, please raise your hand, or you can write it in the comments, whatever's easiest for you. When you raise your hand, can you just use the I can't see hands. Mina, I hope you can see hands because I can't see hands.
Some burger
I think
already,
Berber,
so.
yeah.
Yes,
Berber has
hi.
great. Berber, go for it.
Nice to see you all again. It's been a while. So really interesting work, Guanghong. I have a question just kind of about maybe, you know, like how representative this is of Kenya, and if you could like think or speak through sort of the interactions between farmers and the transporters. When I was trying to do something similar in Western Kenya, not with the fancy Bayesian model that you have, but with quality testing, farmers would always say, well, you know, we don't add water to the milk because that means you're cursing your cow. But this was Kalenjin culture. So very different, I think, from Meru Embu where you're working. But they would say, we don't add water to the milk. That's like cursing your cow and you will lose your livestock if you do that. And so we don't do that, but the transporters, they do, you know, they mess with our milk. And so they would also say, yeah, in other parts of Kenya, it's different. So I was wondering if you could speak to that. And yeah, depending on time, I might have a second question, but I can also raise that individually.
No, thank you, Berber. Guanghong.
Yeah, thanks. And so first of all, for the percentage of farmers who added water, and I poured all four rounds together, that I see like more than 70% of farmers added water more than 4%. This is from the lab testing, right? And this is based on my study sample. As you said, there might be a difference in the region. And secondly, that I also in my study region, I heard a lot of people talking about, okay, could the transporters do something bad, steal milk or add water by themselves? And one thing I can say confidently is that because milk collection is really time sensitive, if you want to do something bad along the way, it's really easy to be observed. Like there's a staff in the collection center. They know what's the normal time. Usually it's like you will show up like around 9:30, then today is like 9:40, 9:50, 20 minutes later, they will, have a sense. But I do have a, group of people from our team that following those transporters. We didn't see any behaviors that they are stealing the milk or adding water to the milk by themselves. And secondly, that one thing I want to point out, which is related to this, is that sometimes it's not farmers themselves adding water. I need to take a closer look at what's the percentage of farmers who have, they even hire another labor to milk the cows and deliver the milk to the coffers. So basically, there is another layer of the principal agent there. The farmers themselves is also hiring the casual laborers. So then when we inform them about the milk quality, they said, okay, I'm gonna be more careful about, the staff we hired, perhaps, they are doing something bad. But I need to see how large the percentage of them are. So, and in terms of the regional differences in terms of the quality premium, so we select those cooperatives because they have the clear incentives from, in Kenya, you are familiar, it's Brookside. They are rewarding this directly. No, if the cooperatives are selling to, let's say, KCC in Kenya, KCC doesn't care. I mean, this is really sad. They basically just take whatever milk have the cooperative. But the good thing I can say is that this is like the trend is growing. Like the Brookside, I think they're scaling up this quality payment model to all the cooperatives in Kenya as they can. And also I heard from your colleagues in Kenya that you can talk to them today that the Kenya government basically is considering a new law for developing this quality-based payment for the mill. So they are working with your colleagues. I even see the email exchange like in October. They said, hey, folks in Uri, can you help me to come up with more case studies in worldwide, how people, how other countries is doing this. So I think this is like becoming more and more a chain that milk should just be based on quality. Otherwise, it's like who should care? Nobody will care about the quality. If you just pay me based on the volume, right? So why should I spend more time and effort to improve the milk quality? I'm not sure whether I answered all of the questions.
Thank you. Yeah. No, really interesting to hear that Brookside is now doing that. Because 10 years ago, they were saying, we just take the surplus in the market. Like, we just let the market clear. And then at rock bottom prices, we will buy whatever milk is left. And we don't care about quality. That's what they were saying 10 years ago. So that's really interesting to hear.
Guanghong, I have a related question to Boba's, but different in the sense, but it is about the cooperatives themselves. I mean, with the work that we were trying to do with the dairy cooperatives, it was very hard to get buy-in and things like that. So I am curious about how you navigated that process in this particular case and why you think that was successful here, because I think that might also help us understand the value of this to the cooperatives themselves. And related, but a secondary part of that is, you talked about these cooperative reactions to the information. Is this something you encouraged? Is this something that sort of just happened on the side? Like, can you say a little bit more about that? Because I think that's also interesting in sort of putting this in context and in terms of how things might change over time.
Yeah, that's completely true. That is so as you can tell that the whole formal timeline is several months. Officially starting from May to September, but this is like after I can't remember how many years of failures. It's like I started the idea 3 years ago. There's so many setbacks along the way. At the beginning, I even remember that when we talked to the cooperatives, say, "Oh, do you need help with improving your milk quality?" They said, "No, we're pretty good." What are you saying that, are you saying that we're doing? They felt like we're somebody who come to investigate it. That's not the purpose. I still remember those days that I travel among the whole country, try to find one single cooperative to work with me. They basically just say, no, we don't need. Then, I mean, just one of the cases that how many failures along the way. And in terms of the reaction specifically, that so first of all, the cooperatives take different parameters differently. So for the butterfly and bacterial, they seems more kind of casual. They feel like they just if they need the trainings, they just contact. Oh, by the way, so the trainings is they contact the regional Brookside agents to help them to do the training. So which has happened before. It's not before, even before we come to the study, they do have those practices before. So then we mentioned about, these certain farmers, they fail this quality standards, then you should, consider help them to grow. So they definitely, considering doing that. But then for the added water, they are more severe. They strong, act just really differently. They felt like, okay, they basically saying that how can we buy a bunch of water from the farmers? So they automatically feel more strict on this. They have to solve it because the butterfly and the bacterial, you can think of that. You might have knowledge constraint. You might have a lot of factors that is affecting that. Maybe temperature is higher, the milk is easier to get bad. But for added water, it's purely just a behavioral thing that you don't need to know. But you don't need anybody to tell you that you shouldn't add water to the milk. So then they just felt like, okay, so then they have to, before they can't tell, but now they said, wow, okay, so if I know that you are keeping doing this, I tell you don't do this. The second round, they said, okay, I'm still observing you are doing this. On the third round, they are basically saying that, okay, if you're keeping doing this, they withhold part of their milk payment temporarily, but at the end of the month, they pay it back to the farmers, basically to tell the farmers that we're not joking. We really want you to stop this behavior, either to, keep an eye on your own workers or yourself, you shouldn't be doing this anymore. So again, so the reactions cooperation from cooperatives is really very case by case, and it's really also not an easy case in my study that to finally find the cooperatives who are willing to work with me, and also for them to take actions on the information we share with them.
Mm-hmm. I have other questions, but I want to give others the opportunity to ask if you have another question or you have a question. Berber, do you want to ask the other thing you had in mind?
Yeah, I think Guanghong was kindly addressing it, which is around, if butterfat content increases, are cooperatives interested in doing extra value added activities? This is something that they were mentioning to me when I was looking into this similar thing, that, they did actually see value in it because it would allow them to start making yogurt and those kinds of things. But again, Western Kenya might be very different from the upper Eastern parts. So I was curious about that.
I observed exact same thing. So one of the cooperatives I work with in Ambo, they actually started planning for making yogurt because those cooperatives, that cooperative is super rich. First of all, they are, I think, later on I realized that they are richest coffee cooperatives in the country. And then so then they are literally considering making yogurt by themselves after they see that the milk quality is like consistently improving over time. But then I can't, because I still need to have a conversation with them because for my project, I ask here that if I don't, share information with you, then in the future, how would you gonna, prove without our team, basically that we don't have unlimited, funding to keep doing this development work for sure. But again, back to your point that. Sorry, there's something wrong with the audio. But anyway, so
no, I think
yeah, just want to mention that I observe exactly the same thing as you mentioned in the Western Kenya, that they do see the value. They do think the milk quality is important for them to do some value added operation towards the milk.
Yeah, okay. I think that's really, really interesting to hear. And it might be good to kind of, when you say, okay, they started providing extra credit lines to farmers or increasing their credit limits, this may be motivated by the cooperatives actually seeing extra value added opportunities, and that's why they can increase credit limits for them, that it's not just kind of an altruistic move of the cooperative. Really interesting work. Yeah.
Well, we're at time. I want to thank you, Guanghong and Mark, for sharing with us today. And I hope you all have a good evening, day, wherever you are in the world. So thank you again.